Okay, I wanted to touch a little bit on the front runner drive setup here on my Nova. I know I touched on it a little bit on one of the other videos, but I kind of wanted to show a little more detail on it, based by using both the motor that's in the car and then the motor that it's going to be going on. You'll notice it's a full Serpentine system. Reverse rotation water pump is the only thing that I had to change out. This is basically an old small block. The brackets are off of an S10. Any V8 will work, but a 4.3 liter S10 also works. You will have to change out your pulley. For the Serpentine, it will mount right on your factory water pump, so you're covered there. You will need the big 8-inch balancer, and I'll show you that in a little more detail over here. And then, of course, the pulley for the water pump. This particular one, you've got a pair of idlers, well, one idler, and then you've also got the tensioner that's located on here. This one's got an electric fan on it with an electric switch, so I did not need the factory fan. But as you see, you could probably get away with putting one in there. It's not very not a very long shaft, but once again, you want to be real careful. I've got some nice stainless bolts on everything. Of course, if you're using stainless on anything, make sure you use your anti-seize. Now, there's a few things on this engine versus the more modern. The bracket is only 2 bolts will go in, because the heads on an early small block only have 2 bolt holes on them. So only 2 out of the 3 bolts that go on each side, only 1 will go on your head. It works well. I haven't had it come loose, shake loose, or do anything. I've checked the bolts a couple times and no problems. The other thing is there's a brace that runs off of here, and then back here on the back, and there are no mounts for that because of the way that the small block is built. Now, one of the things that I'll show you on this one is, and this is where the difference comes in, is these heads have the 3 bolt holes. So those brackets will definitely go right on them. There's your big 8-inch harmonic, or 8-inch pulley. The only thing I have to do is pull off the water pump from the old one. And as you see, it's already painted to match this color. And I've got to do some touch-ups on some of the paint areas. If I wanted to, this is under the water pump, so I probably won't even mess with it. But this one also has the brace there and there that go to that tensioner. And then over here on the side, there's also a brace that comes out. You'll have to pull it after you pull everything off, and it goes here and also braces your alternator. So there's a bunch of things on this particular block that I'll be able to use all of the bracing and everything off of that front runner setup off the S10. The one thing I am doing is that the pulleys are all going out for chrome plate, and so are the big mounts. These mounts here will also go out for chrome plating. This one, and then of course on the other side there's another one there. You can barely see it from here, but this sits inside of it. The air conditioning sits inside of it. I am going to have air conditioning on this car, so therefore I do have a dummy pump on here right now that I'll be using. I am going to pull the tensioner off and put in a brand new tensioner, and probably have the pulley that's on it powder coated if anything. It just depends. I haven't gone that far. I do want to get these brackets and the water pump pulley, and then of course this idler pulley. We'll get those all chrome plated. They make the pulley for the power steering chrome plated, and they make a chrome plated alternator, so I don't have to mess around there. The only thing that won't be chrome will be the AC unit. We'll see what I could come up with later on to take care of that. But yeah, that's the old motor that's in it now. I'm going to go ahead and pull the whole front end off because it'll all go onto the new motor. I'm trying to retain as much as I can. I do have another old Chevy 1500 pickup truck, 1990, that has the front runner set up on it, so I will have a whole nother front runner for this particular car, or I should say, let me rephrase that, for this motor, because I do want to take this motor out. This is the motor that car came with, numbers matching, and believe it or not, that block also has the same serial number that this block has, thanks to the machine work that I had done on that one. So they'll basically be the same motor. The only difference is 350, 383, a little more horsepower over there than over here. But I do plan to retain the factory motor. I'll probably stuff it into an S10 or something for a fun little beat-up street car. And that way, this one just stays for use in shows and that type of thing. While the motor's out, the whole back firewall has to be redone. They make the block-off plates for the heater air, but wiring has all got to be redone. Like I said, back in the day, mice got into this thing and just had a field day. Had a guy fix it, and yeah, it wasn't a very good fix. So we'll clean all that up, get that painted. Fenders will be coming off, so we can get the insides of those painted. So during this whole process, there's a lot that's going to be going on. The front cowl, that'll come off, it'll get painted, and then I've got, of course, all new bushings, polyurethane bushings that are going on the body of the car at the same time, and that'll be the final time I hopefully pull the front apart, get everything painted, including under the hood, and then reassemble it with everything in it, and then finish the paint job once and for all. I am so close I can taste it, but you're always so close on your cars that you never make it right away. But anyway, that's kind of an update on what I'm doing with the front runner setup. Once I've got it off, I'll show you how it bolts to the front of the engine. Once that's taken care of. So that's kind of just give you an update of where we're at right now and what we're doing. I've been working on the Mustang. I had to put in a AC solenoid, a little AC solenoid on the Holly, because when you turn on the air conditioning with a standard Holly, it does not increase the idle, so the car wants to die when you turn the air on. Holly sells a bracket kit to install on it. It didn't work, but the factory Ford had that factory Ford Holly, and guess what? A few parts off of the new one made the old one work, so it's on there and working now. So that's all finished up. That's my next project. Is that motor leaks oil so bad. You know how they are. It's an 80s motor, never been apart, only has 80,000 miles on it, but it's got some wear. So that'll be a upcoming project. And then of course I've got the wife's Fairlane that needs absolutely nothing. That is the spray wrap that's on it. That's just more or less to protect it, and she wanted it to look like a police car, so there you go. It looks like a police car, and she's got magnetic things that go on it that'll dress it all up, along with the big whip antenna and all that kind of fun stuff. But that's kind of where I'm at with projects. It is summertime now. It's in the 90s outside, so almost everything I do I've got to do in here. I really hate the fact that spring lasts about 2 minutes here in Utah, but that's kind of the nature of the beast. Whoop, hold on a second. Let me get you mounted back up again so that I can move around a little bit. There we go. Some of the other things that I'm doing while I've got the motor out is I've got new cutouts, electric cutouts for the exhaust system. I'll be putting those about 12 inches back on the headers themselves. Wrap that header, change out the power steering pump for the one that's the factory for this car, because the way the return comes on this one, it comes in a circle like this, instead of going right out the back like the old one did. So I've got to fix that. I've got to pull the carb and everything off of the front of this one to go on to the new motor. So that'll be pretty much what I'm doing over the course of the next few months, is getting everything off of this motor, especially the front runner. I got to get this off today so that I can send it all out to chrome plate along with the pulleys, and that way it comes back ready to go on that new motor. Then I'll bolt everything up, As far as that one goes, to just trial fit everything, make sure that it's good, and then swap the motors out. Hopefully you'll have a nice cool day one of these days here in the next month or so that I can get this yanked out. I do want to find a 700R4 before I put it back in, which means I'll have to have the drive shaft done, etc., etc., etc. So I'm probably just going to pop the motor out, pop the new motor in, and then later I'll drop a 700R4 in it to get that overdrive. But other than that, that's where we're at. This one's developed an issue. When you fire her up cold, she runs just fine, but as soon as she gets some temperature of any kind, not even temperature, as soon as she runs about 3 minutes, 4 minutes, it starts missing really bad. I'm almost convinced it's something in the electrical, or the distributor got shorted out because of all this bad wiring along the back of this motor. There's something that's going on, and at this point the motor needs to come out so I can pull this whole harness and put in a whole new harness. That way I don't have to mess with this stuff. I've got everything replaced up in here for my fans and my charging system and everything. That's all been replaced. It's just from here back into the dashboard that's kind of been mouse chewed, I guess you'd say. And then also underneath the dash, the guy who put in the stereo years ago was in there. A lot of these folks that are doing wiring are butchers, is the best way to say it. So I've got to reroute everything that I can. And one of the other videos you see where I built that whole relay system in the trunk, because the battery's back there now. I want to move everything back there and remove anything up here that I don't have to have, with the exception, I'm going to leave the fan relays, but I'm going to get a little bit better mounting setup. Right now it's just kind of a temporary thing. I've got a couple of relays. I've got 3 relays on here, a couple of extras, just in case I need 1 or 2 relays up here. It's all wired to the ignition on switch, and that's about that. Anything else that I can think of, I'll pop up a video on it real quick, but probably not going to run many videos here until I get at least the front runner setup pulled off, so that you guys can all see how this mounts on an early motor. But like I said, save yourself thousands of dollars and just take all this stuff. I'll know what it costs to chrome plate it versus buying a whole front runner setup here in the next couple of weeks. We've got Ogden Chrome. Kindig uses them, so they got to be pretty decent. I've talked to the guys over there; they're real knowledgeable. So I'm kind of looking forward to taking everything over and saying how much. I know it's like $25 a pulley to do those, so that makes it real easy. The only thing I'm concerned with is the tolerances and that type of thing. With adding the chrome, I'm going to have to clean a bunch of chrome out of bolt holes and that type of thing, which is fine. It's not an issue at all, but that's kind of to give you an update. Any questions or anything, just send me an instant message. I answer them all the time. So if you've got something you're working on that's like me, where you're just trying to save every dime you can, this is definitely one of the ways to do it. I'm also going to address the giant the giant power brake unit, and try to probably go with a small one. But that kind of gives you an update where I'm at with everything. The motor's all put together, just kind of sitting there. I have primed it. I have not set the timing on the new distributor yet, but yeah, she's pretty much ready to go. Hopefully that goes without a flaw. We can only hope. But the way things work in this kind of a field is, if you got it right the first time, you did a really good job. Odds are you're going to have to do it twice, especially if you haven't done it. My issue is I haven't done it for 30, 40 years, kind of dating how old I am. So I'm trying to remember everything that's back over here, and in some cases you have to YouTube it if you've forgotten how. And I tell you what, I wish they would have had YouTube when I was 20 years old, because my motors would have been a heck of a lot more resilient, I guess you'd say. We had some really good motors, really fast motors and quick motors. Built both the high speed and quarter-mile cars, and they were fast, but boy, today's technology could take these things so much further. And everybody's asking me, well, why the old Chevy small block? It's because it looks cool. LS just kind of looks plain to me. Hey, I don't fault anybody for swapping over to them. They are real reliable. But I've had really reliable small blocks. This thing's been in this car for how many years? Still doesn't burn oil, and the only thing I've ever done to it was yank that nylon timing gear off the front of it, throw it in the trash, and throw a gear drive and a can in it. Intake manifold, carburetor headers, and it's been good for, geez, I think it's going on 30 years now. No, maybe about 27 or 28 years that this motor's been running good. So don't fault them, they're good motors. And like I said, this one, it's all studded and not bolted, so that's going to be an even stronger motor. I ain't racing it, so I know that it'll be good, and I know it'll do well. So that's kind of an update. And like I said, anything you want to know, just shoot me a PM and I'll let you know. Alrighty, thanks. All have a good one. Probably filmed this before I started ripping it apart, but these two here are the brackets on the front of a 4.3 liter or an early model 350 Gen 2s are what they all are. This is your alternator bracket, this is your air conditioning bracket, you've got your tensioner, you've got another pulley here I've already pulled off. But all this comes off. If you go to the junkyard, you can pull all of this stuff off of the front of a 4.3 or any V8 on the lot, and it will fit on your Gen 1 small block. The only issues you're going to run into is there are 3 bolts that hold these brackets in, and then a bunch of braces. Some of the braces will work, some of them won't. Don't sweat it, it's not a big deal. Do get the brace for the tensioner, because that keeps this really, really solid once it's all put together. They do have another version on the truck that I've got outside. It has the smog pump mounted down here if you've got a smog pump requirement, or you want to maintain that smog pump. The difference in the Gen 1 small block and the Gen 2 small block is the power of the water pump. This spins backwards instead of the normal direction like on the V-belt system. It wraps around it, so when it spins backwards. So you need to make sure that you go out and you get a water pump, a late model water pump, 8990 V8 or 4.3 will bolt right onto your small block. If you look at it, you can't even tell them apart. They look almost identical. But you could go to the junkyard and buy all this stuff dirt cheap and put yourself a serpentine system together. The only thing you'll have to do is press off your pulley for your power steering and press on the serpentine belt one, but there's nothing to it because they both use the same press-on fitting. GM's really good about using that same power steering pump for quite a while, so it will go right on it. Of course, your bottom pulley, you pull off of whatever you're doing. I've got one on the new motor for this, and I'm pulling all this off now to install it on the new motor. But before I do that, I'm pulling the tensioner, and I'm sending these two units out to have them sandblasted and chrome plated. You probably spend $100, $150 on a pick apart getting this stuff, another $50 on the water pump, and then I'll let you know what it cost me to chrome plate everything. But I'm going to chrome plate the brackets, the little arms that brace everything up. I've got all of them off right now. There's one that runs from here, one that runs from over here. There's one that runs up the back and braces the alternator. But just kind of gives you an idea of how you can save a bunch of money and still have a serpentine setup. These serpentine setups are cool. The really nice thing about a serpentine setup is you can go with the newer style alternator and run 160 amp, 200 amp, 240 amp. Just depends on the year, make, and model you get, and you're good to go. Like I said, once I know that it's $23 to chrome plate my pulleys at the chrome plate shop. I don't know what these big mammoth brackets are going to cost me. That's going to be the real big one. I'm figuring there's about $250 worth of chrome plating. If you do the math on everything, you're probably looking $300 to $500, depending upon where you get this stuff. And the cool thing about it is that's still 1/3 what the cost of a serpentine system is for one of those nice ones that are all aluminum, all that kind of fun stuff. And you can run the same thing. And when you get everything mounted on here, you really don't see, you don't see much of anything on here. You'll see this chrome here. You'll see a little bit of the chrome here where the alternator is. Down here, you'll see a little chrome. So they're really, really nice. It's a really, really nice touch for the Gen 1 small block. So definitely a way to save some money. The other thing I had to do is I had to move around some of my lines for my carb. But hey, small price to pay. So there you go with that. And like I said, once I've got the chrome plate price and I come back to install them on my new motor, I'll run you through what it cost me to chrome plate them and kind of give you that final breakdown on everything and how much everything costs. Like I say, right now I'm just pulling everything apart so that I can send it out to the platers, and then of course mount it on the new motor. I won't be mounting it before I put the motor in the block in the car, but definitely, whoops, don't want that. I want this. Definitely the way to do it. That's for sure. It doesn't cost as much, and it does look just as nice. A lot of people came up to me at the car shows and they're looking at it trying to figure out what it is. Mainly because it's all painted and everything. But yeah, chrome plating is the only way to do it. This is one of the mounts that runs from the top water pump pulley down here to the brace. There's another one that runs right here down to the manifold, and then there's a third one that runs here to here. And then of course, like I said, the one that runs from there's a bracket you mount on your exhaust, and it comes up and it braces the alternator up here at the top. AC's got 3 bolts in it, and it doesn't move. So one of the things to pay attention to when you're taking one of these off of a car is you have to pull the AC unit off. The bolt has a flat spot on it so that you can pull it out past the pulley. If you don't pay attention to that, you'll be racking your brains trying to figure out how to get it off. But that's kind of how you do it. So definitely want to do it. But this is definitely the cheapest way to go. So this side didn't clean up so good before I painted it. This side cleaned up really nice, mainly because there was a lot of oil on this side of the engine. The other one I pulled it out of. So, but yeah, that kind of gives you an idea of how these suckers work. I've got my pulley. I've got little Allen screws on there. Holding it on is kind of nice. Gives it a nice touch. I will be replacing everything with stainless to make it all shiny and everything wonderful. That way it really, really, really pops on this motor. And you'll notice that the water pump, if you can see it from there, is already painted the same color as the other block because I knew I was going to be building the block. So there we go. And that's kind of the wrap up on these serpentine systems off Gen 2 Chevy. So go to the junkyard to get yourself one, save yourself a ton of money. For these idler pulleys in chrome and the tensioner itself in chrome. These are like a pot metal and they can be polished, but I can't see sending it off to have it polished for assembly themselves, they've got a bearing pressed into them. I'm sure that you can unpress this bearing to pull it out, to have this chrome plated, but then if something ever happens, you got to get another one. It comes as one unit just like this, so there's really no point in doing that. I will get a chrome bolt for it. I will take my wire wheel and I'll clean this all up so it looks like a kind of a brushed texture. That way it does look a little bit better. But yeah, there's your tensioner, and that bolt's got to come out. I'm going to leave it there so I remember where it goes, but because that's got to come out to be chrome plated, I'm not going to leave it there. Big old breaker bar to break one loose because it was stubborn. Let's see. A little bit more, bigger, longer extension for that. Come off relatively easy. It hasn't been on very long. The easy way to know is there's bolt hole, and then one at the very bottom. Same here, bolt hole, one at the very bottom. So getting the bottom one out. I'm not sure if I can do it with this on there, and that is that. I cannot get to it with the hose in place. Now the first time I can get it, I'm just going to have to figure out how to wrench it. I would be using air tools, but it freaks the dogs out, so be nice to them and not make a deal with it. Okay, so loose ball on it. Just kind of got to put your wrench in there until you find it. I don't remember if this one's one that's got one or not. This one does not have one. This side should have one on the top, because it's really weird. One side has all three, but the other side doesn't, so it's kind of weird how that works, but that's just the way it is. If I remember right, this side I had to put it on with the water pump already on it, the way the water pump's pressed on, and the pump and pulley and all that stuff. It's kind of a pain, but you got to do what you got to do. And you can tell there's weight on it because it doesn't move very well. Looks loose. This side doesn't have one. It does. It's behind the water pump, and you can get to it from here. Oh, no, you can get to it back there. So, it's kind of that one. Like I said, I'll replace all these with some really nice stainless or chrome bolts. Make it pretty. This one all the way out. This side's only got 2 bolts on it, so that's why you want to make sure the brackets are all on. The more modern heads and aluminums have the 3 holes, so it's set up for it already. And now the top's off, so you can see that sucker will move around quite a bit.